In the 3rd year of my marriage to Jack, I got pregnant. His first love, Sue, came back to the country with a child. They were all lovey-dovey in front of me, even publicly declared their relationship, acting like a family. If deep love can't make him stay, then I'll just keep the child. I was lying in the hospital bed when I saw the video of Jack and Sue together. Before that, I had called him, but he answered with an impatient voice. "I'm busy right now. Can it wait until I get back?" Before he hung up, I faintly heard a woman's voice sweetly calling him. "Jack, are you ready?" The TV in the hospital room was airing an entertainment report with bold letters that caught my eye. Starlight Group's CEO Jack suspected to have an illegitimate child. The camera showed Jack protecting the child, with Sue holding his arm, looking like a happy family. The girl in the same room looked at me with envy. That girl must have saved the galaxy in her past life to have such a handsome husband and a child. They really suit each other, don't they? I gripped the edge of the blanket tightly and replied with a sarcastic smile. "Yeah, they do suit each other. Where's your husband? You're hospitalized and he's not here with you," the girl asked curiously. "He's busy. Busy with meeting his first love. Busy to the point he didn't even show up when his wife nearly had a miscarriage. Busy reuniting with his family." Jack and I have been married for 3 years, and I've known him for almost 5 years. Back then, even though Jack and Sue broke up and got back together many times, they were still the most enviable couple in high society. But for some reason, despite Jack proposing to Sue 3 times, she never said yes. Jack felt humiliated and, in a fit of anger, followed his parents' arrangement, left Sue, went on a blind date with me, and got married. On our wedding night, Jack said to me, "I know you like me, so let's just live our lives well from now on." I asked, "What about Sue?" He smirked self-mockingly. "She and I are over. Now we're husband and wife. I will try to fulfill my responsibilities as a husband." He said it as if convincing himself more than me. For 3 years, he really kept his promise. Jack is very busy with work and social engagements, but since we got married, except for some important events he couldn't refuse, he comes home early, stays with me, helps me cook, and watches TV shows and movies with me in our free time, acting like the perfect husband. Everyone praised me for my tricks, saying I managed to tame the young master of high society. But now, the situation has changed. Today, I was confirmed pregnant and the doctor told me to stay in the hospital to protect the fetus. Sue returned and she brought back a child. So, Jack was impatient with me and hung up before I could even speak. Busy meeting his beloved first love. After being discharged from the hospital and returning home, after dinner, I sat on the sofa with my knees up, watching the lights in the opposite building go out one by one until they were all out, and he still hadn't come home. The clock chimed. It was already midnight. I thought, it seems he won't make it back tonight. I went to bed and fell asleep. Half asleep, I heard the bedroom door open. Jack was back. I woke up immediately, opened my eyes. He didn't turn on the bedroom light, just quietly opened the wardrobe, took some clothes, and left the bedroom. I waited a long time, hearing the sounds outside gradually fade, but Jack never came back to the bedroom. He must be sleeping in the guest room. Usually, except when he's on a business trip, we always sleep in the master bedroom together. After all, his beloved first love came back with a child. How could he face the wife forced upon him calmly? The next morning, I still prepared breakfast for Jack as usual. As soon as breakfast was ready, Jack rolled up his sleeves and came to the dining table. He picked up the chopsticks and started eating. "Did you return from a business trip yesterday?" I asked casually. His hand holding the chopsticks paused, nodded. "The flight was delayed. I didn't want to disturb you, so I slept in the guest room." I nodded, didn't continue talking, just kept eating my noodles. His secretary had told me he returned the day before yesterday, but he said it was yesterday. He looked at me. "Did you need something when you called the other day?" "I wanted to tell you that I'm actually pregnant." But before I could finish, his phone rang. Even though the name wasn't saved, I recognized the number. It matched Jack's. As he answered, I faintly heard a woman crying on the other end. "What's wrong? Don't cry. I'm coming over right now." Then he hurriedly grabbed his coat and keys. "Whatever it is, we'll talk when I get back." And he left. I saw Sue's post later in the afternoon. In the photo, she was sitting in a hospital holding her baby, getting an 4 drip, with the caption, "Thank goodness you are here." Next to her, you could faintly see a man's silhouette. Though the photo didn't show his face, I could tell it was Jack, because of the small mole on his left index finger. I stared at that photo for a long time. So this is what he meant by busy, meeting with his first love and her child. I quietly logged out of social media, hugged my knees, and sat on the sofa all afternoon. When Jack came home, it was midnight again. I lay in bed, listening to him quietly washing up. Then he laid down next to me, gently wrapped his arm around my waist. I pretended to turn over, trying to free myself from his grip, but he held me tighter, whispering my name softly next to my ear, Wendy. I didn't respond to him. He softly planted a kiss on my cheek. After a while, his breathing behind me became steady. I carefully slipped out of his embrace. Slowly, I moved closer to him, my ear pressed tightly against his chest, listening to the strong, rhythmic sounds inside. My heart calmed down, and I slowly closed my eyes. In my dream, I saw Ray waving at me. We went to Mount Lu to look at the snow. The entire mountain was covered in a thick layer of white snow. We played outside, and our hair got covered in thick snow. He held me lovingly and said, "Wendy, in this life, we have indeed grown old together." "What are you talking about? We'll always be together. If you dare leave me, I won't forgive you." I pretended to be angry and slapped his chest. He hugged me tightly. "How could I ever bear to leave you?" But then the scene changed. I saw Ray falling off a mountain. I couldn't catch him, no matter how hard I tried, and I cried my heart out. "No!" I screamed. Jack heard me and rushed in, hugging me and patting my back. "What's wrong? Nightmare?" he asked while handing me tissues to wipe my sweat. I shook my head, didn't say anything, pushed him away, and got out of bed to wash up. "After you're done, come have breakfast." "I bought it," he said from behind. When I finished washing up and sat down in the dining room, Jack said, "Wendy, we're going to a play tonight. I got tickets, and we can have dinner at the usual place." "Okay," I nodded gently. After we finished breakfast, he picked up his briefcase. While putting on his suit jacket, he didn't forget to turn back and say, "Wendy, I'm off. See you tonight." When it was almost time to get off work, I went downstairs to Jack's office to wait for him. Just when I was about to go find him, I saw my husband walking out with his long-lost first love, Sue. Sue didn't seem to have changed much from 3 years ago. Even after having a child, she still looked like a young girl, with her long curly hair down, looking especially gentle and elegant. "I'll await your message. Contact me when you've decided," she said, reaching out to adjust Jack's tie. Jack was about to say something, but he saw me in the distance. Sue followed his gaze and saw me. She looked surprised, like she was seeing an old friend after a long time. She happily ran over to hug me, but I subtly dodged her. "Oh, it's been a long time, Wendy. Are you here to pick up Jack? You two always have such a good relationship. If I knew you were waiting downstairs, we wouldn't have chatted so long." "Sorry. Yeah, it's been a while. It's been an hour since Jack's supposed to be off work. I had already texted him when I got to his office, but he still made me wait so long. Turns out he was with his first love." I just smiled faintly without saying anything. Jack interrupted our conversation, and then took me away. We went to our usual restaurant, which had really authentic Italian food. I loved spicy food. The spicier, the better. Jack couldn't handle spicy food at first, but because he knew I loved it, he was willing to try. Back then, I'd see him turning red from the spiciness and try to stop him, but he'd say, "As long as you like it, I'm willing to give it a try." I thought he was the one I could spend the rest of my life with. Someone who would humor me and accept me. Whether taking on my preferences is something many people could do. But life is cruel. It gives you hope only to mercilessly shatter it. Jack thoughtfully pulled out my chair and ordered all my favorite dishes. After the food arrived, he eagerly served me and asked me to eat more. I was a bit surprised because usually, we ate quietly, without serving each other food since we both had germophobia. Once we finished eating, he got up to pay the bill, and we headed to the theater. I still remember our first date was just like today. Arranged by our families, after a dinner, he took me to a play I liked. The play was very touching, and I was deeply moved. The story was about two people abandoned by their families growing up in an orphanage. After many hardships, they finally came together and fell in love. But a ruthless car accident took the boy's precious life. They had promised to get married after graduation. See, fate is always unfair. When you work hard and move forward with a plan, it throws a huge joke at you. At that time, Jack saw how upset I was and kept comforting me, saying, "It's just a story. If I knew it would make you cry so much, I wouldn't have brought you." While I was still moved to tears by the scenes on stage, he took out flowers and a ring, knelt on one knee, and proposed. I was stunned, and tears kept falling. I stared blankly at his eyes, memories flashing before, meshing together, and after a long time, I said, "Yes." He took my hand, put the ring on me, wiped my tears, and gently hugged me. I felt his heart pounding fast, probably even faster than usual. "Did you feel it too?" I looked at Jack, who seemed to have something to say. "Is there something you want to tell me?" He hesitated before saying, "Sue has my child. He's already 3. What do you want to do?" I replied calmly, as if I was merely asking what to eat. not how a wife should react upon hearing her husband has an illegitimate child. Sue has cancer and doesn't have much time left, so I want to bring the child home. Don't worry, you'll always be my wife. He gazed at me, holding my hand as he promised. How is that even possible? I frowned, gently pulling my hand away. How about I step aside and let you guys be a happy family of 3? What are you saying? Jack looked shocked. Ignoring him, I turned and went to the bedroom, bringing back the prepared divorce papers. Here, look over it. If there's no issue, just sign it. He was stunned, like he didn't expect me to bring up a divorce. But instead of taking the papers, he started blaming me. Wendy, do you really need to make such a fuss? I told you, this won't affect you. Our house is big enough to raise another kid. If you don't want to see him, we can send him to the old house. Isn't that enough? The kid is already so big. I'm his father. I can't just ignore him. Do you really love me? Why don't I feel it? Something like this happens and you calmly ask for a divorce. Aren't you even a bit angry? Jack looked at me furiously. Angry? Sure, I admit it. The first time I found out you lied to me, I was a bit mad. But now, I don't care anymore, because I never truly loved you. 3 years ago, I married him, not because I loved him, but because of the person I did. It's strange. I thought he would be relieved, but he was just furious. I didn't reply, just placing the divorce papers on the coffee table, letting him think about it before signing. Then I turned and went back to the bedroom. I heard a crisp sound of something breaking outside. Probably means the cleaning lady will have a mess to clean tomorrow. After a long while, Jack stormed into the room. I won't agree to the divorce. Just drop the idea. Right in front of me, he shredded the divorce papers to pieces, slammed the door, and left. I thought, maybe it's because I brought up the divorce first, hurting his pride. Even though he's married, he's still the center of attention in our circle. The day after Jack confessed, his mother came to see me. Of course, Jack's family wanted to acknowledge the child. Over the past 3 years, Jack's mother had subtly brought it up many times. She even sent over some tonics, but Jack threw them all away, saying we'd let nature take its course. His mother couldn't do anything about it, and had to resort to hinting at me. Now, they don't like Sue, but they would never let Jack's child be out there. Our family's child must be acknowledged. Don't worry, the child will be under your name. After all, you haven't gotten pregnant in these 3 years. Maybe once the child is back, you'll get pregnant. Everything in our family will definitely go to the child in your womb. If you don't agree to bring the child back, then we have no choice but to talk about divorce. She made her intentions clear, both soft and hard approaches. Fine, I already want a divorce, but your son won't agree. You should convince him. I smiled indifferently. Seeing me like this, she got high blood pressure and left angrily. News of our divorce spread quickly. My parents strongly opposed it. What are you even thinking? After the divorce, where will you find a man as good as him? I don't agree with the divorce. To my father, a good man means a family background that can support his business. In our high society circle, Jack's family fits the bill perfectly, so there's no way he'd give up this golden goose. Whether he's decent, or if I like him, is irrelevant. What's important is how he benefits my father. These days, which rich man doesn't have someone on the side? Besides, the kid was from before you married. It's not his fault. Just tolerate it. My mom, holding my hand, urged from the side. Tolerate it like you did for decades. Pretend not to know about the mistresses. Just because I was born a girl, not favored by my grandma, she sent me away to my grandma's place for over a decade. Only after my grandma passed did they bring me back. What if I insist on the divorce? I looked straight at him. If you insist on the divorce, then we don't have a daughter like you. My dad threw a cup at me from the coffee table. Unable to dodge, my hand got cut, stinging with the pain of the glass shard. My mom quickly pulled me to the bathroom to treat the wound and quietly asked, "Can't you forget about Ray? He's dead. Your life is still long. You need to move on. Even if he were alive, your dad would never let you be together. Just let go of the past," she said earnestly. A confusion flashed across my face. Ray and I met when I was 6 at my grandma's house. Back then, I was being laughed at by other kids for being unwanted. Pouting, I was about to push through the crowd. When Ray appeared, he chased away the bullies and declared, "Don't bully her again, or you'll regret it." Ray was like a ray of light that saved me. Before him, I had no friends, nobody wanted to play with me, but he did. He walked me to school, played games, and did homework with me every day. As we grew up, our childhood friendship turned into love, but it was short-lived. In college, Ray died saving a child from a truck. To this day, I can't think about that scene. All I remember is Ray lying in a pool of blood, looking at me from afar, trying to lift his hand, calling my name, before passing out. I was trembling all over, running to his side and crying uncontrollably. The ambulance arrived quickly, but despite the efforts, Ray didn't make it. He left me forever. Because he had signed the organ donation earlier, we couldn't even bring his complete body back. Later, I was taken back home. After some inquiries, I found out that Ray's heart was transplanted into Jack. I then quietly started learning everything about Jack. Surprisingly, they looked quite alike. I remember the first time I saw Jack. My face was already covered in tears. He walked towards me in an empty hallway. For a moment, our eyes met, but then he quickly looked away and walked past. I crouched on the floor, hugging my knees, and cried loudly. "Are you okay?" A deep voice came from beside me. Through my teary eyes, I saw it was Jack. He had come back with a packet of tissues, which he handed to me. "Here, take these." I shakily reached out to take them. "If you're feeling down, maybe some sweets would help cheer you up," he said, his eyes softening. It reminded me of Ray. I wondered if he could somehow sense my presence. That was the heart of Ray, the man who loved me, now beating inside Jack. Could that love continue? When I found out he broke up with his girlfriend and my family suggested we start dating, I agreed. I decided to divorce, because I understood he was not Ray. As for the baby, despite my lack of feelings for Jack, the child was innocent. I planned to keep it. As I was packing to leave, Jack suddenly came back. Seeing my actions, he became furious. He threw all my packed things out and grabbed my hand. "I haven't agreed to the divorce. Do you really want to do this?" he yelled. Without a word, I pulled my hand away and continued packing from the messy floor. Jack, in a fit of rage, started smashing everything in sight. The bedroom was in shambles. Then, he noticed a photo on the ground and instinctively picked it up. I quickly rushed to snatch it from him, but was a moment too late. When he saw the photo of Ray and me from our college days, where I gleefully leaned on Ray's shoulder with him looking lovingly at me, he laughed angrily. "Only love Ray in this life, forever and ever, read the note on the photo. So you only love him. What about me? Who am I to you?" Jack's eyes were red with fury. It was almost funny seeing him so mad, considering he was the one who cheated. Turning my face away, I calmly said, "You have no right to control me. We're getting a divorce." Hearing that, he lost control of his anger. Before I could react, he pulled me forcefully, pinning me down on the bed. "As long as I don't agree, you're still my wife," he said harshly, kissing me violently like he was taking out his anger on me. I struggled desperately, using all my strength, but I couldn't break free. I raised my hand and slapped him. "Let go of me. You can't do this." He paused, then began tearing at my clothes furiously. He pinned me down with his legs and yanked off his tie with one hand. "I'm your husband. Exercising my rights is perfectly legal. Are you thinking of another man while sleeping next to me? Today, you'd better look carefully and see who your husband really is." With that, he pressed down on me. Seeing his red eyes and reckless actions, I was furious and anxious. I passed out. When I was brought to the hospital, I had already regained consciousness, but I didn't want to open my eyes. Outside the door, the doctor was scolding Jack. "This is nonsense. She's pregnant, and you're still behaving like this. Do you even want the unborn child?" Jack stood stunned. When he spoke, his voice was filled with surprise. "You're saying my wife is pregnant? She's already 2 months along. And you, her husband, didn't know?" The doctor replied angrily. "The baby is okay, right?" After the doctor's positive response, Jack hurriedly came in to see me, but when he saw I hadn't woken up, he gently closed the door. I kept my eyes closed, pretending to be asleep. Jack's gaze was fixed on me. Unable to endure it any longer, I opened my eyes. He looked delighted and grabbed my hand. "I'm sorry, I didn't know you were pregnant. Why didn't you tell me?" Jack's anger had subsided, replaced by guilt. I pulled my hand back, turned away, and closed my eyes, not looking at him. How laughable. I wanted to tell him at first, but did he give me a chance? Playing the role of the devoted lover now was just too late. "You can't just throw away our years together because of my mistake 3 years ago." He brought me some nutritious meals, but I had no appetite. He thought I was being stubborn. "Wendy, even if not for yourself, at least think of the baby," he said. When I continued to ignore him, he got angry again. "You want to divorce, but it's not because of Sue's child, is it? It's because of that other man, right? Is he really so great? Or are you planning to bring my child to him? No man would accept that." Jack's face darkened as he mocked me. "Aren't you afraid I'll find him? You know what I'm capable of," Jack warned, when I still didn't respond. Everyone knew Jack was young, but ruthless in business. Those who offended him never ended well. I heard the noise and opened my eyes, staring at him. "So, you only react when he's mentioned. Looks like you're really afraid I'll hurt him." Jack's face was dark, veins bulging on his forehead. His fists were clenched tightly, as if he was trying hard to control his emotions. "All right, Go find him then, I sneered. You can go find him underground. I just wonder if you'd still say that if you knew the heart beating in your chest is Ray's. I didn't want to talk to him anymore. I shut my eyes, refusing to look at him. I was afraid if I kept looking at his angry face, I'd lose control and slap him. Filled with anger, he stood up without a word, kicked the chair next to him in frustration, and slammed the door behind him. The room fell into silence. Soon after, my mom rushed in. Wendy, now that you're pregnant, you need to think about the baby inside you, she persuaded me earnestly. Besides, Jack's family is well off. If you go too far, we'll be the ones who suffer. Think about me too. If you really divorce Jack, and your father brings his mistress home, how am I supposed to live? My mom wept and sobbed by my side. I suddenly felt life was so meaningless. As parents, they only cared about their own comfort. They had thrown me at my grandma's for years, not even bothering to visit. Growing up, I could only envy other kids who had parents picking them up from school. For me, Grandma was old, so I had to walk 5 kilometers to school alone every day. Sometimes, my classmates mocked and isolated me, calling me a parentless child. Where were my parents then? When Grandma passed away and the family business needed an alliance to stay afloat, they remembered that they had a daughter who could be useful. When I agreed to marry Jack, they couldn't have been happier, praising me as a good and sensible daughter. But now, when I want a divorce, they stop at nothing to prevent it, just because their own interests are at stake. Do they see me as a puppet to be manipulated at will? Whether they agree or not, I'm getting a divorce. Seeing my resolute expression, my mom cursed at me, ungrateful brat. We raised you for nothing. If you must divorce, I'll disown you. After yelling, and seeing that I still ignored her, she left angrily, feeling it was pointless to stay. She gave birth to me, but did she raise me? Grandma raised me. Has she forgotten? I buried my head in the blanket, trembling silently. Jack investigated quickly. Within a day, he found out everything. With eyes cold as ice, he came to my hospital room, threw the investigation report in front of me, and glared. Did you marry me because of Ray? Because his heart was given to me? Am I just a stand-in for him? I looked at his angry face with no emotion. So, what about our feelings for the past 2 years? Didn't you ever feel anything for me? He asked hoarsely. Feelings? Yes, for a perfect man, both in looks and talent. Living together for years might have borne love. But, if I hadn't overheard his conversation with his brother, can you really stand living with someone you don't love for the rest of your life? Have you really moved on from Sue? His friend probed Jack. Even if I haven't moved on, so what? She still dumped me. I think I'll only love her in this lifetime, Jack scoffed. Hearing this, I, who had been about to enter the room, stood dumbfounded outside the door for 5 minutes, calming myself, then walked away. There might have been a chance, had he not crushed it before it could bloom. Actually, when I decided to move on from Ray and live a good life with Jack, if he hadn't deceived me, hadn't been tangled up with his first love, hadn't had a child with her, I believe we could have been happy. But life doesn't work with IFS. Jack, do you love me? I interrupted him. He was stunned, not sure how to respond. You don't love me. You're just upset about being dumped by women repeatedly. So, let's part peacefully. Leave a little dignity for both of us. Such a proud man couldn't bear falling twice for women. To him, I was just a matter of pride. He opened his mouth to explain. No, it's not like that. Whatever it is, I don't care anymore. I want you to know, I never liked you. Not before, not now, and I never will. I responded. Jack's eyes turned red. He grabbed me, clutching my hand so tightly it felt like he'd break it. No matter what, I'll never agree to a divorce. You can only be mine. Seeing me wince in pain, he nervously loosened his grip. Sorry, he tried to explain. I rubbed my bruised arm, looked at him calmly. In that moment, the quiet hospital room enveloped us in silence. I have some work at the company. Throwing that line, he fled the room quickly. In the days that followed, Jack didn't show up, but in the deep of night, half awake, I vaguely sensed a presence beside me, a shadow filled with the strong smell of smoke, exuding a chilling aura. I knew it was Jack. On the day I was discharged, Jack came to pick me up. I got in the car and we drove home. Arriving at our building, suddenly, a car sped towards me. My mind went blank, and my legs felt like they were filled with lead, unable to move. Just as the car was about to hit me, Jack shielded me at the critical moment and pulled me aside. I heard a heavy thud. When I turned around, I saw Jack lying on the ground, the culpable car long gone. I stood there, dazed, my mind utterly blank. After he was rescued and awakened, I opened the chicken soup I had prepared for him and asked, "Why did you save me?" "Because I'm your husband," he replied with a smirk. His face was as pale as paper, with a noticeable scratch on his right cheek. He no longer had his handsome appearance. Hearing this, my eyes showed a complicated emotion. The doctor said, luckily, he was brought here in time. There's nothing major now. He just needs to rest for a while. The person responsible for the accident was quickly found, and the instigator behind it was Sue. When I heard the news, I wasn't surprised because I had no enemies. Besides her, I couldn't think of anyone else who would do such a thing. Still, I hadn't expected her to go to such extremes. When she was arrested, I saw her. She looked very different from the last time we met. Her facial expression was extremely twisted, her eyes wide open, revealing a kind of madness. Seeing me unharmed, she lost her mind a bit and started to say, "Why weren't you the one who got hit? You should die. If it weren't for you, Jack would have always loved me. It's all your fault. You took everything from me." She tried to lunge at me, but the police beside her stopped her. "Why? He clearly loved me before. Why didn't he agree to give up Dan because of you? How could he? How could he?" She then went into a frenzy. "Jack's such an idiot. I told him Dan was his son, and he believed it. He even told you he wanted to take him back. After we broke up, how could I have kept my ex-boyfriend's child? How stupid." Later, I found out Sue didn't accept Jack's proposal only to take revenge on his father for what he did to her mother. Back then, Jack's father and Sue's mother were lovers. Sue's mom got pregnant, but Jack's dad abandoned her to be with a rich girl, who is Jack's mom. Sue's mom, discovered to be pregnant out of wedlock, was forced to have an abortion by her family and marry an old man, who always abused them and called them worthless drain on resources. Sue's mom blamed everything on Jack's dad and told Sue to seduce his son, cruelly abandoning him after succeeding. But after they broke up, Sue realized she was already in love with Jack. When her mom found out, she started tormenting her, beating her, depriving her of food, and calling her vile for getting emotionally involved. Sue managed to escape her mother's clutches, but got pregnant while drunk at a bar. She wanted an abortion, but the doctor told her she couldn't have children again if she went through with it. So she had to keep the baby. She had a rough few years. Later, she tried to use the child to get back with Jack, but was rejected. Desperate, she said she was sick and the child needed care. She never expected Jack would refuse to show any sympathy because of me. She hired someone to kill me but failed, and ended up in jail. Finally, Sue was sentenced to 15 years for attempted murder, and her child was sent to an orphanage due to lack of care. When Jack's injuries were almost healed, he proposed, "Wendy, let's give each other one more month. If you still want a divorce after a month, I'll agree." I agreed. To me, 1 month wouldn't change anything. It was just a buffer period for him to accept the decision calmly. We still lived in the same house as before. The only difference was, I slept in the master bedroom, and he in the guest room. Every day, he meticulously prepared nutritious breakfasts for me. From being clumsy at first, he became proficient. Just like the countless mornings I prepared breakfast for him before. However, due to my pregnancy, I had little appetite during this time. He kept trying different dishes to suit my taste. Every day after work, the first thing he did was prepare dinner. Seeing him like this, I said, "Actually, you don't have to do this. I just want to treat you the way you treated me," he said, clenching and then unclenching his hands. "We need to talk," I said. "I just remembered I have a document to finish." "You eat first," he interrupted, picking up his things to leave. "Jack," I called out, stopping him. He froze, standing motionless as if realizing what I was about to say. He didn't turn around. "A month is almost up. You don't need to do this. After the child is born, you can come visit. I won't stop you. You'll always be their father. Nothing will change that." Hearing this, he couldn't hold back. He turned around, reaching out for me before pulling his hand back. "Don't leave, even if it's just as a stand-in. I'll agree. I just don't want you to leave me," he pleaded, eyes red. "Can you really stand to let the child experience their parents' separation right after being born? If there's something you don't like about me, I can change," he said hoarsely. I interrupted him. "Jack, a lifetime is long. I don't want to keep living like this. I need to follow my heart and live for myself. Otherwise, it's exhausting." "Okay, I agree. If you ever want to come back, I'll be waiting," he finally agreed. I didn't know how Jack persuaded his parents to agree to our divorce, especially since I was pregnant, but that didn't matter anymore, as long as the result was what I wanted. After I got the divorce certificate and was about to leave the civil affairs office, Jack called me. "Do you have any plans for the future? Staying in this city?" "Of course, I've lived here for so many years. Everything familiar is here. I can't move to a foreign country just because of a divorce," I said with a light laugh. He seemed relieved. "If you ever need help, feel free to ask." I nodded, smiled, and waved goodbye. "Do you need a ride?" "No, thanks. Goodbye." I waved goodbye, got into my new car, and drove away. Through the rearview mirror, I could still see Jack standing there until his figure got smaller and smaller. The sunlight shone through the car window and onto my face. I looked at myself in the mirror. My eyes sparkled again, like I was reborn. I touched my belly where the baby was. I was ready to chase the life I always wanted. Life is amazing and worth finding ourselves. Jack's epilogue. I'm Jack, the only son of an upper-class family. I grew up with wealth and privilege. I could have anything I wanted, except for the love of my life. I first met Wendy when I was 20. I was attending a seminar at school. Walking down the hallway, I saw a girl looking at me with a complicated expression. At that time, I didn't understand what her eyes were expressing, but I thought they were beautiful. I thought she must look lovely when she smiles. After I left, I heard her crying intensely behind me. I couldn't help but turn around and hand her a tissue, comforting her by saying, "When you're feeling down, you can have some sweets. It'll make you feel better." She stared at me, and I felt an urge to protect her. Little did I know that I would see her again during a matchmaking meeting arranged by my parents. I was surprised when I saw her. She looked like a blooming flower, with a gentle wisdom in her brows and bright, clear eyes. I admit that at first, I only agreed to the matchmaking to appease my parents. I had been with Sue for 6 years. She was spoiled, and we broke up and got back together countless times. Even when I proposed to her for the 3rd time, she just said, "I'm not ready for marriage yet." I replied, "Then let's break up." She thought I was joking at first, but I was really tired. Our relationship was full of misunderstandings and arguments, and the passion had faded. So when we actually broke up, I felt relieved. With my family's encouragement, Wendy and I had our first date. I heard she loved watching plays, so I took her to one. I didn't expect that the play would move her to tears. I regretted choosing that play a little. I didn't want to see sadness in her eyes. After the play, I took out the flowers and the ring I had prepared, and I got down on one knee to propose. With tears in her eyes, she stared at me for a long time before softly saying, "Okay." I was secretly overjoyed. On our wedding day, Sue came to see me, but I used my busyness as an excuse to refuse. Before the wedding, she thought I was just having a mood. She didn't expect I was serious about getting married, so she left the country in anger. For 3 years after we got married, Wendy and I were like an ordinary couple. We talked about movies we liked during our free time. When we were busy, we understood and supported each other. I thought we would continue like this. Then, Sue returned and broke the peace. I looked at her with calm eyes, without any emotions. I had truly moved on. She brought a 3-year-old boy and a paternity test report. She said he was my child. The boy hid behind Sue, looking shy. I was stunned and asked, "Why didn't you tell me before?" I only found out after we broke up. And if I hadn't gotten cancer, and had little time left, I wouldn't have come to you. It felt like a bolt out of the blue. I was terrified, thinking about how Wendy would react if she found out. Would she leave me? The thought made me panic. But Sue had no family, and the child was innocent. I told Sue, "I need some time to think about it." That night, I didn't go back to the master bedroom. I was afraid to face Wendy. I didn't know how to explain it to her. The next morning at breakfast, I hid the truth from her for the first time. Then, I got a call from Sue saying the child was in trouble. She cried a lot, so I rushed over. It turned out to be just a fever. After staying with the child for his 4, I went back to work. By the time I got home, it was already late. Watching Wendy sleep peacefully, I felt a sense of fullness, held her, and quickly fell asleep. I thought, I must tell Wendy about the child, but how should I bring it up? We had planned to have dinner and watch a play together. When she came to wait for me downstairs at the office, she saw me with Sue. Sue was there to discuss the child's situation, but seeing Wendy, I got nervous. The whole evening I was distracted. Later, she noticed something was off and asked, "Is there something you want to tell me?" I hesitated for a moment and decided to confess. But she asked for a divorce. I thought she was being unreasonable. Why bring up 3 years ago now? Of course, I disagreed, then slammed the door on my way out. When my mom heard the news, she went to Wendy, hoping she'd accept the child. Otherwise, she suggested divorce. Wendy replied, "I was always planning on divorcing. It was your son who didn't agree. Why couldn't she be a bit more understanding?" I was so good to her. Later, I saw her packing her bags and leaving. I lost it. I smashed all her luggage. A photo fell to the ground and caught my eye. It was a picture of her with another man. I'd never seen her smile that brightly. Below the photo was a line of text, "Love Ray forever and ever." Seeing that, I couldn't control my anger. I pushed her onto the bed and kissed her fiercely, as if this was the only way to prove she belonged to me. Under my aggressive actions, she passed out. I was terrified and rushed her to the hospital. The doctor told me she was pregnant. I was stunned, filled with disbelief and immense joy. The doctor's reproach was a distant noise, but I didn't care. All I could think was, she's pregnant. That's amazing. Then I worried that my actions might have hurt her and quickly asked the doctor. After getting a reassuring answer, I eagerly entered the hospital room, but she was cold towards me. Out of jealousy, I taunted her. Do you plan to marry someone else with this child? Treating him like a fallback. My anger made me say things without thinking, but she still didn't reply. Only when I threatened to bother the other man, did she coldly open her eyes and say, "Go ahead." I stormed out, then had someone investigate Ray. What I found in the report shocked me. How could it be him? Ray, my heart donor. I had always been sick and relied on medication. When things got critical, I heard there was hope. I wanted to compensate his family. After much inquiry, I learned Ray was alone, his grandmother having died long ago. We built a monument for him and visited annually since he saved my life. But I never imagined Ray was Wendy's childhood lover. Did she marry me just because Ray's heart was inside me? Thinking this, my heart ached uncontrollably, and jealousy consumed me. I stormed into the hospital room and questioned her, but she just stayed silent. It drove me crazy. In my fury, I lashed out verbally. She asked me, "Do you love me?" I paused, not answering right away. Of course, I loved her. Why else would I care so much about her opinion and be so tense around her? She then said, "I don't love you. I didn't before, and I never will." My heart hurt so much. Was it because of Ray? Was it his heart? I fled the room, feeling like I was escaping. On her discharge day, as I was driving her home, we encountered a crash orchestrated by Sue. One time, I noticed the child's blood type while getting info at the hospital. I secretly investigated and found out the child wasn't mine. Learning this, I felt relieved. Maybe Wendy and I still had a chance. I told Sue I knew the child wasn't mine and couldn't raise him. Unexpectedly, she went mad, trying to run Wendy over. Luckily, I pushed Wendy out of the way, so she wasn't hurt. I ended up in the hospital for a month. During that month, she took care of me every day, but I could feel her heart wasn't with me. I wasn't willing to give up. I wanted to try one last time, and asked for another month together. She agreed. During that month, I treated her as well as she had treated me. I made breakfast every day. I rushed home from work, avoiding social events to be with her. Still, she decided on the divorce. I held back my pain and agreed. The day we got the divorce papers, I saw her smile as brightly as in the photo. I thought, if that's the freedom she truly wants, I'd let her go and silently protect her from a distance. I only hoped that one day, she might have a change of heart.